All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's head on into the cantina. As we said at the top, we've got a couple of really great guests. First of all, we've got Chase Masterson. Many of you, and in fact, most of you probably know her as Leeta from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. She's wonderful. And also a little bit of a blast from the past of Rebel Force Radio. We have Carrie Goldman. And Carrie is known as the mother of Katie Goldman, who had a little bit of a rough time back when she was a first grader about 10 years ago because she was carrying her Star Wars or R2-D2 lunchbox and her Star Wars backpack. And some of the kids at school thought, hey, you can't like Star Wars. You're a girl. What are you doing? And that created a lot of awareness for, not just girls, but all fans. And their need to be able to, as Jimmy Mack has said from almost day one of this podcast, say it loud, say it proud, as a Star Wars fan. So we're going to go into the cantina. We're going to catch up with Carrie as well as Chase Masterson right now.
Where are you going, Master? For a drink.
Sorry about the mess.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
We have you guys on here because of Pop Culture Coalition. And you guys, obviously, Carrie, you're really legendary amongst fans of pop culture in all of your efforts and the book you wrote and everything you've done to fight bullying of kids who just want to express themselves through their passion and fandom. And you learned of that firsthand when it happened to your own daughter. And this led you to such big things to promote awareness in this area.
What's fascinating is that every couple years, though, I see another Katie, a story about, some parent it just kind of catches the attention of the fandom, and you'll see a story about another little girl who's been told you can't wear Star Wars and or like it. And I don't know if you were familiar with what transpired with the 501st Legion, but a year or two after Katie's story broke, basically, she wanted to be a stormtrooper, a real stormtrooper for Halloween. So she, I said, oh, she's looking for a costume. And members of the 501st from all over the world, I mean, literally all over the world, scoured and found parts and components and authentic everything. And then they shipped everything to the Midwest Garrison, because we live in Chicago. And the Midwest Garrison had a team of people who, yes, there's the picture, came together. And they basically built and assembled this stormtrooper costume or suit of armor for my daughter and presented it to her. And so she wore it and loved it. And about 2 years later, we learned about another little girl who was being bullied for being a Star Wars fan. And as you can imagine, children between the ages of 8 and 10 grow like crazy. And so Katie had outgrown her armor, and it was really very precious and invaluable. And part of her wanted to keep it, just as a something to have forever. But what she and we decided is, let's pass the armor down to the next little girl who needs to be armed against bullying. And so the Midwest Garrison facilitated this incredible exchange and brought the armor. And so literally Star Wars fans are arming little girls against bullying, which I think is such a metaphor.
I like that it gets handed down. So maybe there's like another little girl
of the traveling armor. And so it's already found another little girl. So
that's amazing.
There have been several little girls at that point who've had it. And I just, it's such a beautiful way to like show the lasting effects of one kid's story, because it's not just about one kid, it's about all the kids.
Well, Chase, how did you get wind of this story? And is that really what sort of gave birth to the Pop Culture Hero Coalition? Was it Katie and Carrie's story?
Thank you. I came in as a huge fan of Katie and Carrie. Um, I had heard about, and I just want to say first, your recounting of that story, Carrie, is so beautiful, and everything that Carrie says is just so propels a person, at least me, to want to do everything we can for
Mhm.
this cause. It's really wonderful to hear that story and to hear it from you, Carrie.
Thank you.
That really is the heart of the coalition. It's one person reaching out to help another person because we
Mhm.
know what it's been like, what it's
Mhm.
like to experience unkindness and fear and a lack of safety and trauma.
Mhm.
And when we know what it's like and we know what it's like to heal, then we're able to grab the next person's hand and
Mhm.
say, come with me, and together we'll get through this. And no one knows exactly what any other person has gone through. We all have our stories that are really
Mhm.
difficult. And yet we know enough to be able to say, I know the way out. And that's just, with Katie, that's such a beautiful metaphor and a beautiful thing that's happening. So I came in as a huge fan. I saw the post that Carrie made about, would you reach out and say a few words of encouragement to my daughter? Um, I did. I posted, I'm a woman. I love sci-fi. I love Star Wars, Star Trek. I love science, and you get to be who you are. And as you know, there were thousands of us
Mhm.
who posted that. And at the time, I had been through my own trauma, big serious trauma regarding a stalking that I'd had through Star Trek, and a lot of other intense bullying and injustice that happened along the way. And in my own path, out of out of my own trauma, I went downtown in Los Angeles and became a mentor for men and women coming out of gangs at Homeboy Industries. And I realized that that was another form of bullying, perhaps the ultimate bullying, when you say, you do what I say or it will cost you your life. And that's literally what these kids grow up with. And they're afraid to go outside their doors, um, for fear of many types of bullying, retaliation from what a distant family member did, but they're
Mm.
not in the right gang. And it's horrifying. And the way I went in there was, I said, I don't know what you're going through, but I have my own trauma. I know what it's like not to want to stay awake. I know what it's like to have to be so threatened that I want to hurt someone back. And together we can figure this out. So eh, all of Carrie's story rang true to me on different levels. And um, it just, sorry I'm going on, but it occurred to me from going to Star Trek conventions,
Mhm.
that this is where we celebrate heroism. And then at the same time, it
Right.
occurred to Carrie to get her book into Comic-Con. And so we created the very first event, anti-bullying or bullying prevention event at a Comic-Con. And then I'll let Carrie take the story from here on how it's become what it is now.
I think what happened was that it really strikes a responsive chord because talking about bullying and talking about being hurt is painful and vulnerable. And so for people to be in a place psychologically where they're going to talk about that, there's something that lightens the conversation and lifts it up when it's blended with the joy of your fandom, right? Like there's so
Mhm.
much fun and there's so much joy in talking about your shows and your characters and your fandom that it's almost like it's this vehicle to allow people to have the fun and yet have these moments where they also connect on a deeper level with the struggles that the characters they love experience. And so what we decided to do was sort of harness that fun and that passion, but also seize on the fact that the human condition is shared in all these heroic journey stories, right? The human condition that we all know, jealousy and grief and loss and insecurity. We see it played out in Anakin. We see it played out in all the different characters and the journeys they take. And so it was like, oh, this is a great way to try and reach specifically children because children often have a lot of social anxiety and they don't want to talk about their insecurities or their shortcomings as a group. But if you say, all right, let's talk about the shortcomings and the insecurities of your heroes, where is Luke flawed? Where is Rey flawed? Where is Kylo Ren flawed? Is this person all bad or all good? Is there room for them to repair and restore? Kids, it's like allows them to access how they feel about their own mistakes, but it's safe because they're talking about the repair that a character can do. So you combine the fun of the fandom with the real social emotional learning that our kids are so desperate for, and it just has been a nice combination. Really, that's what it comes down to.
Well, Carrie, as a parent, I have a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they come home from school every day and they have different stories, different little dramas that unfold. And how do you know? Because there is a certain element of letting kids push some boundaries. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. When do you know that it's crossed the line to where it's a problem and it's not just kids being kids? What's your advice to parents?
I have a very simple answer for that. Couple components. What you're asking is, what's the difference between normal social conflict and bullying? Because one is like part of life, right? We argue with people, we push boundaries, and the other is not normal. So basically, it starts with having a good understanding of what it means to tease and to tease acceptably. Teasing, the kind that's fun and the kind that we all do, is when the person doing the teasing and the target are both laughing and having fun. So everyone's like, you're mocking someone, you think it's fun, they think it's fun. The problem is, what if the teaser is having fun, but the target is actually feeling embarrassed or scared or upset? A lot of kids publicly will laugh in front of everyone to save face. So what we have to say is, do you feel like you could privately later pull that other kid aside and say, hey, I didn't like that? So that's the first question. Are you not afraid of them, right? Are you afraid to even tell them, lay off me? If you are, we're starting to see a power imbalance. So the first question for a kid who comes home and says, hey, I'm upset about what's happening is, if you privately pulled the other kid aside and said something, do you think you could do that, or do you think they'd retaliate? And the second question that we want to ask a kid is, has the person done it again, right? So bullying is a repetitive situation. So let's say someone teases your kid and calls your kid a dork or something, and your kid pulls the other one aside and says, cut it out, I didn't like that. And the other kid says, lighten up, I was just kidding. Here your kid can say, okay, well, kidding means we both think it's funny. Now that you know I didn't think it was funny, if you really were just kidding, you won't do it again. Right. But let's say it happens the next day and the other kid calls your kid a dork again, and your kid says, give it, stop, I don't like it. And the other kid says, I told you, I was just kidding. Don't be so sensitive. Here's where your child can say, actually, you aren't just kidding. You're trying to be mean on purpose because you already knew I didn't think it was funny. This is how people weaponize vulnerabilities. So we can teach kids to recognize that when someone weaponizes your vulnerability and then uses it and hides behind the just kidding excuse again and again, now we're slipping on that slope towards, okay, is this bullying? Now, it's only considered bullying if the child who's being taunted is also at a less position of power. So, I mean, you could have someone who taunts you and makes fun of you every day, but if you're not afraid that they're going to make sure no one sits with you at lunch tomorrow, you're not afraid of that kid, right? Yeah. You could be an 8th grader and there could be a 6th grader who mocks you every day. It's repetitive, it's unwanted, but if you're not worried that 6th grader is going to make sure that everyone ices you out, it's still not bullying. So you kind of need all three. So for you to get worried that something's going on with your kid, it has to be going on more than once. It has to be a power imbalance, and it has to be something they don't want. So like with my daughter, when she, one morning when she was back in 1st grade, she had been every day carrying a Star Wars backpack and her Star Wars water bottle. And a classic sign of someone being bullied is if they change a behavior. without a good reason. And there was a morning where she was like, I don't want to bring that stuff anymore. And the reason she didn't want to bring it was, of course, she was being teased. And as we pieced the story together, we found out there were a group of boys who were following her at lunch into her locker and then to recess. And, basically saying, you're not allowed to play with this stuff. You can't play with us. So this was happening repetitively. It was unwanted because when she started to cry, they didn't care. They just kept doing it. And there was a power imbalance because they had the power to make sure she didn't have other friends to play with. And she developed such a sense of fear that she stopped carrying her Star Wars stuff. And that is how bullying happens. You start to fear the place where it's happening.
And that's what we heard about, like the rest of the nation and the world 10 years ago. And we were like, hey, we wanted to be and continue to be a platform, a very large platform for Star Wars fans. And we want it to be a safe place for everyone to be a fan. No one should be teased because they like something that maybe other kids don't, or they think that maybe they even do like it. And they say, well, you don't have a right to like it because you don't look like me or whatever. Right. So, yeah.
Well, you see that in cosplay too, right? I mean, think about the bullying that can happen in cosplay. If someone says you don't have the right to wear that costume, you have the wrong body type, you have the wrong this, the wrong that.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And the website is popculturecoalition.org and
popculturehero.org.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I have the coalition on my mind. But see right there, it says Pop Culture Hero Coalition. But yes, Pop Culture. What's that website again?
Popculturehero.org.
I'm so sorry, guys. Popculturehero.org. And that's where you can get all the information on everything that we've been talking about tonight and what you can do to make a difference. Because that's important. I think we all got to team together. We got to pull it together and we got to make it so anyone's fandom is open and safe and accepted. And I think growing up, when you display such passion for anything, that makes you a target.
That's
that
right.
Instantly, because people will know, they'll recognize that and be like,
they'll
that's your
weaponize
weakness.
a vulnerability, and a vulnerability is caring, right? So if you care about something, then kids, they find the little thing, anything that makes you different or your passion, and kids are mean, they can weaponize it. So we just need to teach our kids how to respond and what to do and say. And the reality is that we also need to teach the adults around the kids how to help make those safe spaces. The fact is, anyone should be allowed to play with a Star Wars. It shouldn't just be for a boy. It shouldn't just be for, a science fan. It should be anybody.
Or a Klingon action figure. I don't want to leave Chase out of this. Chase, obviously, you held down the bar there at Quarks. You again, as I say, you are the first Star Trek actor we've ever had on this show. And it's like worlds are colliding or something. This is crazy.
Yeah, I got to do my
oh man.
Say again, Chase.
Oh no, I was just saying it's so beautiful. What were you saying, Carrie?
I was just saying it makes me think that we have to do our fingers and do the live long and prosper sign.
Oh, I can do it.
Both, man. Yeah. All of it. All together.
I
inclusive.
Taught myself, when I was a little kid, I taught myself how to do
infinite diversity, infinite combinations. I know my Trek.
Pretty much.
I know my Trek.
That's also the key to what Carrie was saying. I mean, we should all be allowed to love what we love. And there's a lot of gatekeeping and bullying within fandom too. I'll just take the time out to say, when our show went on the air, the Deep Space Nine producers got a lot of flack for having a black captain. And we also, a lot of, we had a lot of fans push back from a female captain with Kate Mulgrew. There's a lot of pushback for, for the black characters in Discovery. Unbelievable.
Wait, but
that was never, ever, ever okay. But the fact that people are doing it now, It's shocking and disheartening.
It's hard to
A lot
imagine
of
because I
pushback.
look at, Cisco and Janeway now, and they're legendary characters and
Icons.
I think
Legendary.
many people consider, Captain Cisco one of the most badass of all of the Starfleet captains. And
He was, yeah. And and the stories of Deep Space Nine to be some of the most compelling, and they revolved largely around a black family and a black father
right.
who a black single father, and the pushback over a female doctor in Doctor Who. And I hear there was pushback over Finn being a lead character, and Amy uh, Tran got pushback, in a
Oh,
shocking way.
Kelly Marie Tran.
Kelly Marie,
Kelly Train.
Mm-hmm.
am I like put off the show now? Sorry.
No, you're
Oh
Trek.
yeah, you're banned. You're banned. Of
No, you're-
course.
Band.
She's Trek.
Kelly Marie
We
Tran.
understand this.
Right.
We're
Yes.
cutting you slack. We're cutting you some slack. Don't worry about it.
Sorry. Anyway, no, I knew that. It's been a long day. Anyway, it's, we celebrate these stories because we love these concepts, because we love what they tell us. It's not just the big battles or any kind of production value or the epic quality. It's the tiny quality that speaks to our hearts. It's the wisdom. And yet when fans go against that wisdom, it becomes a very, very difficult and unsafe place. And we would think that if there's anywhere that should be safe, it would be our fictional passion and our communities. So I just want to say that Star Wars has experienced that, Star Trek has experienced it, and I hope we can grow to really practice the stories that we love.
Chase, speaking of stories, I saw your TED Talk, and
Thank
you it was a very compelling 20 minutes on stage, and you revealed something. I assume that you forged this relation through your years on the convention circuits, but you revealed that you were tight with Peter Mayhew. Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca the Wookiee himself, and he was friends of ours here at Rebel Force Radio too. And I just wonder if you have any stories, thoughts, or memories about Peter you'd like to share.
I have many, many stories. The first one would be of my very first convention. It was in Tulsa, and it was, I don't know if you guys, any of you know John Harper. He's a really classic convention promoter in Tulsa, and Joe Bob. Anyway, they're big Star Wars fans, and they brought all the four of them in, the Fab Four as they called them, and the men behind the masks, Peter and Kenny and Jeremy and Dave. And so I walked into the lobby, and the first thing I heard come out of my mouth was, I saw these guys there in all their shapes, sizes, and glory before the con started, and I said, "You're not from here, are you?" And we struck up an instant friendship, and we're dear friends ever since. They were literally the first people I met before my first convention.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, I very vivid memories of that, and all throughout. Peter became such a dear friend that we did a lot of shows on the convention circuit. And one night in Austin, we were doing one of these where it was all four of them and me and a few others. And it was a very long day. And I'm from Austin, so I wanted to go out on the town. And Peter and those guys, Peter wanted to just go to sleep. He's like, "No, I'll see you tomorrow." And I was like, "No, Peter, come on. It's a great town. There's life out there. It's great. It's going to be fun. Come on out." And that's the night he got together with Angie, his wife.
Wow.
Oh.
Holy
Yeah,
cow.
that's the night. Yeah.
So you're not saying you're totally responsible, but you're kind of responsible for the Wookiee finding love.
Yes, I mean they actually attribute it that way.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you. So I have one other story, if I may.
Please.
Yeah.
Peter, thank you. Peter and Angie remained dear friends. Angie's a dear friend to this day. I just spoke with her recently. We needed an actor to play a mysterious figure in Yesterday Was a Lie, a film that I produced in 2006. And the director knew that I knew Peter, so he asked me if I would call Peter. Well, we had $100 a day, and that was it to pay actors. But we were able to feature Peter in his real face, and so this was the first or maybe second time ever that Peter did a role as Peter,
Oh,
and
wow.
he took the job at $100 a day. Um, they, so completely beautifully sat on set without trailers or anything else, just low budget and hard work. And he was wonderful and sweet the whole time, as was Angie. And it was a hugely lovely bonding experience. Peter was a huge gentleman, a generous professional, wonderful to work with.
Yeah, what a great guy. What a great guy. And
What a
and
great
I had
story.
no idea that
Thank
you were
you.
actually the one. I mean, he ended up becoming a US citizen and settled down in Texas.
In
And it's all
Texas,
because of
yeah.
you, Chase. It's all because
Well,
of you.
I wouldn't say that, but it is because of the concept that, this comes back to a lot of our mental health concepts. It's because the concept of what good is sitting alone in your room,
Mm-hmm.
of resilience and of getting yourself out of your comfort zone.
Did I hear a
And you never
cabaret line there? Maybe.
it's all nonfiction, babe. I played that role actually.
I
But
Ah.
well, you're
it's
also a
it
very, very talented singer and
Yes.
cabaret
well,
performer and
thank
all of
you.
that. Yes.
Anyway, I just want to say it's a lesson for all of us, really. We have no guarantees that anything great is going to happen, but it sure won't if you just sit there. And so in getting out, somehow the force honors our decision to extract ourselves. Sometimes it feels like extracting yourself from quicksand or like pulling a tooth. It can be so difficult to get back out there. I think particularly after the pandemic, it's difficult for those
Mm.
of us who are introverts to really get out there and connect again. But
Mm-hmm.
when you do, good things can happen.
Well,
I
I'll tell
also
you,
think
that's worth a round at Quirk's bar right there.
yes, it
What you
is.
just said.
Snail
That's a
juice,
round on
everyone.
me.
Thank you. Carrie, what were you going to say, Carrie?
I was just going to say that, having three different kids going through the pandemic right now, and
Mm.
my kids, their schools were closed for like 16 months,
Mhm.
all three of the public schools. And the role that these parasocial relationships play to lonely kids is invaluable. I mean, when you are lonely, either because a pandemic has closed your school, or maybe you're just the kid that doesn't fit in and you don't have a big group of friends, the comfort and the company that you get from watching your shows and interacting with the other fans. Now everything, you can put it up and it can be streaming, and you can chat with other fans about your favorite parts. And we talk a lot in the coalition about the importance of these parasocial relationships, the feelings you have for your characters. You cry when they die, and you cheer when they win. And I think that it provides so much real company for kids and for teenagers. I saw it with Katie. Katie has very strong feelings for the characters and the people that she follows through her fandoms. And it feels like those are your personal heroes,
Oh,
helping you.
I so relate to that. Growing up, I was always so drawn to. It's the reason why I think I became such a fan of things like Star Wars and
Mhm.
Star Trek and movies like Stand by Me and The Goonies and these things
Mhm.
I grew up with as a kid because there were so many great lessons. What is it like to be a family? What is it like to
Mhm.
be a friend? And I learned a lot of that stuff. From these
Yeah.
from these stories. But before we wrap up, I just want to circle back and make sure that folks can find these resources. The website is popculturehero.org, and this has all the information on the organization. And you work with across schools and community centers and things like that. What is it, ladies, that you are looking for in terms of folks helping out with this? Volunteers? How can people get involved?
I would just love to jump in and ask if Carrie wants to say something about this curriculum itself.
Oh,
It's an
sure.
incredible piece of work that she's created, and if there are teachers or educators, principals out there, this is something that would be great for you to know about.
Yeah, we have a curriculum. It's got over 30 lesson plans. And it's basically there's one for younger children and one for older children. And it basically leads kids through all these concepts of identity, of resilience, of conflict resolution, of identifying bullying, of how to help and support a target without engaging in victim blaming. It teaches the difference between victim blaming and true authentic support for someone. So we have this curriculum, and it's available now. The YMCA is using it as their main social, emotional, and bullying prevention program in the YMCA's across the country, in the after school care program and before school and with kids. So, if you're a teacher or if you have a school where your school isn't doing enough to address bullying or social emotional learning, and you're looking for a fun option, definitely contact us and see if it's something that would
Carrie,
work for your school.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in at the end. I just want to make sure
No.
we have time to say Carrie's built this curriculum tirelessly, enlisting psychologists, and so creating an intersection between pop culture, psychology, and education. Carrie has really spearheaded this in the most amazing way, as is evidenced by the fact that YMCA picked it up. Part of the way that we've financed that is with our Be Kind campaign, and
Mhm.
it is a beautiful thing. Carrie,
I'm wearing my Be
Oh,
Kind Star Wars shirt.
there it is. There
the
it is.
best. And I have my Live Long and Be Kind. And basically, and we have several other types, and we have LGBTQIA fun rainbow styles and designs. This is crowdsourced empathy. This is people coming in and saying, here's my $25. I believe in your message. It's a fun thing to wear, and it will help support creating a world with empathy, a world where, pardon the expression, we can all live long and prosper. A world
Ah,
where
well
a
played.
world where if you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Wow.
Nice.
Now you're showing off.
There you
Yep.
go.
Now you're showing off, but it's great. And I'm so happy because I was very well aware of the Star Trek Be Kind shirts, but I'm so happy to see there's a Star Wars inspired one.
Yes.
Looks like the opening crawl,
Yes,
blazing
exactly.
across your
It's
shirt. It's
exactly what it
perfect.
is.
And are those
Yeah.
available on the website if folks want to grab those?
Those are available at bekindmerch.org. That's
Be
our site. We make them
Mm,
in-house, and 100% of the proceeds goes to making these programs happen. So
mhm.
bekindmerch.org.
And
Well, pick,
we have them in children's and adult sizes. So, like, for example, everyone in my family has their own, you know, uh, perfectly sized Be Kind shirts.
Oh,
perfect.
look at this! Now you also got the buttons, so you can see all the different
Yep, and we have masks if
franchises
you are
represented
in a
here.
place where, you're where I
Ah,
know, like, for example, where I live, we have to wear masks everywhere we go that's outside. So I do often wear my Be Kind masks, and it makes people smile.
Awesome. Well,
Perfect.
you've certainly made us smile here. Really, really appreciate it, and thank you, Chase, for coming on a Star Wars show. Though
Yeah.
you did prove that
thank,
you know your Star Wars, and you were
She knows
thank
your
friends.
you.
Star
Oh,
Wars.
that, I bow to Carrie and Katie's knowledge and understanding, and I'm just grateful to be a part, and thank you for having us.
Yes, and Carrie,
Well,
we would be
thank you.
remiss if we didn't ask how Katie's doing these days.
She's doing well. She's 18.
Wow.
Whoa.
She just got her first college acceptance to
Oh
University of
my
Arizona.
God. Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, yeah,
And
I don't
she's a
blame her.
senior, and so I know it's really weird. She is about 7 inches taller than I am, so she has really grown, um, and she still likes Star Wars.
That's
In
Perfect.
fact, she was
That's what we wanted to
just
hear.
she was just arguing with Cleo, the youngest, and they're 8 years apart. because they mixed up their Star Wars socks. And so she thinks that Cleo keeps taking her Star Wars socks. And so I think we all need new Star Wars socks for Hanukkah.
There's going to be a bounty on Cleo's head pretty soon. I fear. Well, that's great.
Goodness.
Please pass along our love to her, and happy holidays to you both.
And may the
thank you
force
so
And
much
to you.
May the force be with you, and live long and prosper. Want to make sure
Thank
all the
you
bases
so
are
much.
covered here.
If
All
anybody
Thank you,
wants to
Chase.
keep up, if anybody wants to keep up with our work, I forgot to say it's at Superhero IRL on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So at Superhero IRL.
Oh, as in real life. Love
Very
it.
good.
Love it. At Superhero IRL. And I'm looking at it on Instagram right now. So excellent. Lots of ways to keep up with this great organization. Thank you both so very much. And happy holidays too.
Happy holidays to you
Holidays. Great
Take care.
stuff.
Thank you.
All right.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
all. Bye.
Bye.